Everyone should be investing in Alexander the Great, and I am no exception. On our Restart project, which is a very low spend account, sitting at about 42 million power, we're going to go and spend our precious Universal Legendary Commander sculptures on Alexander the Great. In this video, we're going to help you figure out where you should be investing your precious sculptures. And is it Alexander the Great? I think the answer is almost certainly yes. Hello my friends and welcome back. I'm Chisgule Gaming. Today we're spending legendary commander sculptures. I wait so long to do this, and finally we're putting our money where our mouth is for our restart project and powering up good old Alexander the Great. If you like Rise of Kingdoms guides that help you get value and smash your enemies, consider smashing that subscribe button for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos. We're a sponsored content creator, and today we're talking about legendaries. You know, we've got a detailed video that evaluates which legendaries we think you should invest in and the exact order to go about doing that. Spoiler alert, the first legendary is Esong. The second legendary is either Alexander the Great or Constantine. The third legendary is whichever one of those two you haven't done yet. And I'll say that some number of players mix in Richard I in the earlier part of their playing the game, and that is totally fine as well. Now, we've gone the route of putting all of our universals first into Esong, and now we're going to power up Alexander the Great. This is exciting because this account is on its way toward Season 2 of Kingdom vs. Kingdom, and in that season of KVK, Alexander the Great with either Charles Martel or Esong is a very valid rally or counter-rally combination. And we're actually making our way toward T5. I don't think we'll get there before this KVK, but it will be nice to have a combo that you could use to rally. Now, between Alexander the Great and Constantine, I mean, I would kind of prefer to be investing in Constantine for my account, quite frankly. However, Constantine is much harder to obtain because he's from the Mightiest Governor. So I'm going to do the next best thing, and quite frankly, this commander is the jam. A lot of people would argue that you shouldn't focus on Constantine before him anyways. So when we talk about investing in Alexander the Great, there's a couple things that I want to mention. First and foremost, think about whether or not you're ready for him to be a primary commander. There's two things you're going to think about for that. First of all, do you have the experience to level him up? And do you have the stars to level him up? That is important because, look, I don't think I've even got the stars for this. I might have the stars to take a commander up, but that's it. So is Alexander the Great going to be the one commander that I do? Maybe it will be. Maybe I am close enough, and by the time I get him up to the high enough level, I'll have enough stars. But you only get so many commanders you can level up in each couple months that you get the stars for it. I think Alexander the Great is a fine choice for that. Now, if you're deciding whether or not you're going to be leveling him up, I just want to give you a couple things to think about. As you go about this, think about what marches you're going to use in the open field. Who really are you going to pair him with? Also, who really are you going to pair him with in Sunset Canyon? I need to go and do that evaluation for myself, and I will say you would be surprised just how effective an Ethelfled primary with an Alexander the Great secondary is. And that is because Ethelfled is going to be powering out that active skill very frequently. Alexander the Great really wants that rage engine because the more you fire off the shields, the more you're helping your allies. So we're going to go in and power him up now. I'm going to plan for him to start as a secondary commander, and over time he will become a primary commander. So let's go and make these investments. I'm really excited for this. First things first, when you work on the skills for Alexander the Great, and yeah, we've got about 518 sculptures. This is not going to be enough to expertise him. We could get close, but we're not quite there. I think it is very important when you work on this commander that you max the first skill, then you max the second skill. This second skill is bananas crazy good. We've got a detailed Alexander the Great guide. I don't want to go over all of the same things we did there, so I'll put a card up in the top if you want much more detailed information evaluating these skills and pairings for this commander. So let's go and use those universals now. And as I do, we get the quick reminder here that this commander comes from Wheel of Fortune. Now, I personally, even though the Wheel of Fortune for Alexander the Great is coming up soon, and this is a little weird because we migrated to a younger kingdom on this account, so we're getting more Alexander the Great wheels. Technically, we're getting 2 full rounds of Alexander the Great wheels, which most accounts don't do, and you got to migrate in order to accomplish that. I think that I just don't have the gems to be spending on his wheel, even though he's coming back. So my game plan here, because he is going to come back on that wheel, is to take him to 5-5-5-1 and to pause there. That way, if for some reason I decide I do want to spin the wheel, get a little more value, I can get that. I'm still getting a ton of value with this commander having the first 3 skills maxed. And to review what that gives me a maximum amount of shielding, a maximum amount of damage and healing reduction from the second skill, and also the maximum amount of march speed and attack. And I am really quite hyped for that march speed because, look, like I got caught out in the open field. I'll put a card up in the top for when we were in KVK Season 2 with this account earlier. I got caught in the field by some super high power player, and I just got completely sauced. I was wrecked. It was game over. So I'm in for some march speed. Yeah, that's a thing we really feel like we could use. Now, one thing I want to call your attention to that's very interesting about this 4th skill is that it gives you either an attack bonus or a defense bonus, depending on whether or not your shield is active. But you can only have one of these bonuses at a time. This is important to keep in mind because this skill powers up by 5% of stats every time you level it up. Okay, so it's either going to be defense or it's going to be attack, but it's only 5% of stats every time you level it up. Meanwhile, the 3rd skill is giving you also just 5% of extra attack every time you level it up, and you're getting 5% march speed. So between the 3rd skill and the 4th skill, actually, I'm surprised I never noticed this sooner, that like, yeah, the 3rd skill is simply more stats. It's simply more stats. Yes, it's attack instead of the possibility of defense while you have a shield active, but I'm in on maxing the first 3. I think probably you should be too as you work your way toward the expertise. That way you can start using them immediately. So let's start switching some of these over. Here we go, baby. First up, 30 sculptures, confirm it, boom. Now, 30 more sculptures, fire that up, confirm it, boom. We're up to 40 sculptures a pop. You can see that price is going to increase pretty substantially for each of these skills. And 40 more universal sculptures. We fire that off now. And we're looking pretty good with a 5-5-0-0. Of course, we want to work on some more of these skills. So we now need to level this commander up to 20 to unlock the next skill. There we go. Alexander the Great all the way up to 20. We're going to star him up. We do want to star him up in a way that only unlocks the 3rd skill. We have now done that. And now we apply even more skills. 45 sculptures move over. We'll upgrade him. And, you know, I've talked a lot about how I much prefer using your universal commander sculptures on commanders that are not available to you in gold keys. Card up in the top on why that is one of the biggest mistakes I have ever made using universal legendary commander sculptures on gold key commanders. Really quite a large error. All right, so here we go. Boom. Now we have a 5-5-5 Alexander the Great. We just need to unlock that last skill and then get him into our lineup. And you can see the sculpture cost has gone way, way up. It's going to be 160 sculptures for the last 2 skills, 150 sculptures for the next 2 skills. So a grand total of 310 sculptures to finish out this expertise. This is a fine stopping point if you wanted to go wide instead of investing in just one commander specifically. So to give an example here, I could work toward the expertise, which is my personal game plan, or You know, look, I could take a commander like Richard I, probably to 5/5/1/1, and if I cared more about Canyon, I'd actually get a lot of value there. I would get a lot of value, but for now, let's just unlock that last skill, and then we'll slowly level him up from there. We're using up a lot of these experience tomes, but you know what? That's what they're here for. Beautiful. Okay. There it is. There it is. We upgrade the star level now. And this commander is looking really quite good. How am I going to use this commander? I plan to use him in the open field, both in KVK or if I was doing Ark of Osiris. I currently haven't had the time to do Ark of Osiris on my restart, although that's a thing I certainly would like to do and maybe stream if you're interested in that. And I also am going to use this commander in Canyon. He is going to become a secondary commander there immediately. So here we are with our 5/5/5/1 Alexander the Great. This is truly transformative for a Canyon lineup. So if we go into our Canyon lineup now, we've got to figure out which commander goes away. And I can tell you really off the cuff that Boudica looks like she could pretty easily be replaced. Now, I do want to call your attention to something, though, which is that I much prefer when Alexander the Great is in the back line if possible. Alexander the Great gets seemingly more and more powerful when a fight runs long. I think it's that shielding effect becomes very difficult to overcome. So I really would prefer him to be the secondary commander. Unfortunately, that's not a situation that I'm really able to create in this instance with the commanders that I have. I could theoretically do something with my Sun Tzu. I could make him a secondary to the Sun Tzu, but now I kind of want my Sun Tzu Martel to kind of off lane and be up into the top away from everybody else. So I think what I'm going to do for now is I'm just going to swap out the Boudica and swap in the Alexander the Great. And keep in mind that most of what he's doing doesn't care or require you to have all infantry. So his first skill doesn't require you to have infantry. His second skill doesn't require you to have infantry. The third skill benefits infantry, but it doesn't require you to have all infantry. Even the fourth skill doesn't even care about the troop type at all. So we're going to pair Alexander the Great like this. This is mostly infantry. If I wanted to be a little saucy here, I could reduce the number of these other troops. And the only reason I have other troop types is because I've got a few talents on Boudica. I've got a few talents on Joan of Arc that are helping give me some boosts based on having multiple troop types present. So there we go. We've got our Alexander the Great in with Joan of Arc. I think that is going to work really well. The Joan of Arc combo with the support tree should be very, very tanky. You could make an argument that maybe it should be the secondary to Ethelfled because the leadership tree might be a better pickup. I think honestly, either way is totally fine, and I'm happy with how this is looking. If you did enjoy this video, consider throwing a like onto it and subscribing to the channel for daily Rise of Kingdoms videos that help you get value and smash your enemies. We put a bunch of cards up in the top throughout this video, so if you tap the little eye up at the top, you can go watch any other one of those suggested videos related to this topic. And until next time, you have fun smashing the kingdom.